Good evening, good evening. Type into the comments so I know you're here. It's Woke Wednesday. Instead of saying hump day, it's Woke Wednesday. Hello, Demetrius. Hello, hello. Thanks for jumping on. Let's see. All right. Well, we'll get started in just a minute. How was your Wednesday? How's your week been? Good evening, good evening. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So close your eyes. And I want you to think of a drive that you took today, whether that was to work, home from work, to the store, whatever. I want you to think of a drive that you took today. And I want you to think about the turns that you took, the stops that you had to make. What stoplights did you get stopped by? Hopefully you stopped at the stop signs because you're supposed to stop at every one of those. So I can't say which ones you got caught by. If you took the same route as usual, if you took a different route, what you noticed. So something that happens a lot of times down by me is I might get stuck by a train, or I might get stuck by a train that stopped on the tracks. That happened a few weeks ago. So as you're thinking about that, some of you might be thinking, I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure I took the same route as I usually took, and I'm sure I stopped at the same places I usually do. But so often we're operating on autopilot and we don't even remember. We're just like, I know I got home. I don't remember how, but I got home, right? And that's because we've got so much going on in our lives that we're not in the moment. So tonight, what I want to talk to you about is being intentional. All right. Stepping off that conveyor belt, turning off the autopilot that we so often live our lives in, and being intentional with what we do. So the definition of intentional is on purpose or deliberate. So when we think about that, we know that a lot of times we don't live our lives on purpose. We're not deliberate about the things we do. It's on autopilot. So if you think about it, even thinking about like when you're walking, when you're walking down the hall or anything. This is something that I learned when I was really getting into my exercise a few years ago, was that mind-muscle connection. And oftentimes we're just walking. We're not recognizing, we're not thinking about all the muscles that are actually working to have us walking. And so I learned when I was exercising and stuff, when I was lifting weights, to really focus on those muscles, to really think about those muscles, to really recognize where my energy was going. Because if you think about it, walking is so automatic that if we're not intentional with it, we might not even be recognizing all of those muscles that are getting us to where we want to be. It's kind of like breathing. Breathing is so automatic we don't think about it. However, how many times have you caught yourself like breathing in a way that wasn't effective, like breathing really shallowly, maybe when you're stressed out or when you're upset, and you have to sit there and take a moment and go, okay, hold on, I'm supposed to breathe a little bit more deeply than this. So sometimes we need to be more intentional in a lot of parts of our life. So when you want to lead an intentional life, that means that you are leading a life with purpose and on purpose. And those are two really big things. So we need to slow down. That's the first thing that we have to do, is we have to slow down, because so many times, like I said, we're just not even connected with what's going on. We're not present in the moment. We're just going. And our minds are usually going in 500 other places than even what our body is going. And so we have to be intentional in every single moment. And so something that I learned, I know I put out there, it was a few months ago, that I had gotten accepted into a coaching program, and that was pretty cool. And some things that I learned, they were called PQ reps, and a couple of them that were really helpful to me. And this is all about like just finding yourself in the moment, slowing yourself down. One is with touch. And so the directions were to rub two fingers. It doesn't matter what two fingers, but to rub two fingers together so intently. So you're focusing on it so much that you feel the ridges on your fingers, right? And if you like, it takes a little bit of practice to actually get here. But when you're in a moment of stress, hi, David, when you're in a moment of stress, this can be extremely helpful to kind of get you into the moment. Like, okay, hold on, let me be more intentional. Let me think about things. Another one that I learned, and this was really awesome. So it was with sound, and they did a couple different ones with sound. One was to just where you're at. Listen to the sounds that are closest to you, hear those sounds, and you'd sit in it for a minute. And then hear those sounds that are further away. So like in my office, for example, there is construction going on everywhere. And so if I listen to the sounds that are closer, some of those sounds might be the nail gun or something like that going off. But if I listen for sounds further away, I might hear like the paint roller going up and down the wall or different things like that. Another one that I did that I just thought was like, when I did it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. When I went to the bathroom and I was washing my hands, really listening and focusing on the water sounds. And as I was listening, I was able to separate, okay, so there's the water coming out of the faucet and there's the water going down the drain, and really hearing the separation of those sounds. Some of those types of practices can help get you in the moment more. But if you really want to live an intentional life, some ways to get started. First, you kind of have to evaluate where you're at now. So, where are you at and where do you want to go? And you have to be real with yourself, because if you're sugarcoating it, that's not going to help. You need to define your purpose and goals, right? So we should all have purpose. We should all have goals. We are here for a purpose. And if you haven't figured out what that is yet, it's time to really start figuring that out. Really looking at, so, what would I do with my time if I didn't have to work? That's a question that I will often pose in my workshops. If I didn't have to work, what would I do with my time? That's a great way to figure out what your passion is. And, if you find yourself doing things a lot, so in my life, I've looked at most of the jobs that I've held have been around helping people. So I know that that's a big part of my purpose, right? And so as I look at those things, I have to have the purpose and goals, but I have to really define those, and I have to go really into detail. So I can't just say, okay, my goal is to, do a TED Talk or whatever the case may be. I have to define, what are my goals personally? What are my goals professionally or career-wise? What are my goals with finances? What are my goals with relationships? What are my goals with, and I can even break that down, with a relationship with my daughter, relationships with my parents, relationships with my friends. What are my goals with leisure? What I want to, how I want to enjoy my life. I really have to define those goals individually and break those out. So it's really helpful if you have like a journal that you can write those in. You want to find ways to stay focused. And so those PQ reps that I said, in the moment when you catch yourself going off 500 different directions up here, those PQ reps can help center you and refocus you. Meditation is always good for that. And obviously, there are times that you can't meditate, but if you do that, exercise can help you stay focused. But really staying focused and not getting distracted. And understand that I don't mean like, just distracted by your phone or the TV or anything like that. It can be something that's important, like paying your bills is important. But if that's not what you're supposed to be doing in that very moment, then you shouldn't be paying those bills right now, right? If you have kind of a structure set for what you're going to achieve that day or how you're going to achieve it, your layout for the day, then you need to stay focused and stay present in that very moment, right? And so they often will say that, the best idea is to not try to sit down and work on a project for hours on end, but, maybe like an hour on a project and then go do something else, because that way you're able to stay focused a little bit more. Be very intimately familiar with your values. Your values are your principles, your standards that drive your behavior. It's really you defining what's important to you. So for some people, quiet time might be super important to them. So understanding those values and making sure that you build time in for that every single day is important. For some people, the value might be taking walks every day. And so you have to make sure that you build that in to your schedule. And this is really important on your values. So being able to say no to the things that aren't as important so that you can say yes to more things that are important. So understand that every time we say yes to something, we're also saying no to something else. So if I say I'm going to sit down and work on my business, this is what I'm doing right now. Yes, I'm saying no maybe to doing something with my daughter. I'm saying no maybe to going and hanging out with my friends. So every time, just understand that. That's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You're going to have your yeses, you're going to have your nos, but really understanding and where your goals and purpose are, and so that you can be intentional about what you're saying yes to, and understand that you're okay with what you're saying no to. Right? So understand that. Gain control over your impulses. This is a big one. We very much live in kind of, this immediate reaction, immediate gratification type of culture now. And so our impulses will often cause us to just react super quickly right off the bat, and we don't have to. Oftentimes when we're being impulsive about something, it's usually either based on emotion, and maybe a need that is not being met, that we feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this because this isn't being met. And so when we're impulsive, that can cause more problems for us. So gaining control over that, over being impulsive. And, again, understand, like if I get a text, I don't have to respond to that text right away. If I'm supposed to be working on something else, and every time my phone goes off, I'm picking up my phone and I'm responding to people. Hey, Vinny. I think there's someone else on. I can't see though. So sorry, I got distracted. Hi, Vinny. So we want to make sure that, we understand I don't have to respond to everything right when I get it. This is something that they talk to people about on the job a lot, because we know that it's very ineffective when people, every time the chime goes off that they got a new email or something, then they stop doing whatever they're doing and they answer that email. That distracts them from that project, and it generally takes them like 15 minutes more to actually get back into that project. So it's very ineffective. So they talk to people about this with time management and that kind of stuff. You want to understand that intention requires presence, being in that moment, every moment. This can be hard. I'm still working on it, right? It can definitely be a challenge. And so at the end of every day, we need to kind of evaluate ourselves. How did I do today? What places did I do great at, and where did I lose my focus? Where did I get distracted? And be willing, we have to be willing to be real with ourselves, but be willing to evaluate ourselves at that point and understand that, excuse me, that today was our choices, but tomorrow we have new choices. Everything that we do is a new choice. So you have control to change that choice every single day, how you want to do things. So where you might look at yourself today and go, oh man, I didn't do so great at this. Don't get discouraged, because tomorrow is another opportunity to do better, right? Tomorrow is another opportunity to be accountable to yourself a little bit differently. So that's a big thing. A lot of people hate that word accountability because they think of it like, kind of like responsibility. They're like, ugh. Right? Some people just don't like that, but it's actually a good thing to be accountable to yourself, be accountable to your goals and that kind of thing. Now, we're almost done, guys. So to kind of look at this, choose your heart. If you guys saw what I posted on my story earlier today, it was talking about how, I'm just going to leave the light off. I'm sorry. It's not going to be glowing. So if you choose your heart, divorce is difficult. So is being married. Right? Communication is difficult. So is no communication. And so you have to choose your heart. Everything in life is hard, but you have to choose which one meets those values that I brought up earlier. Which one is going to speak more to your values? If your value is marriage, if you value marriage, then you know what? When it's time and it's getting difficult, you have to choose that. You have to choose that marriage, and you have to choose to look at that and work on that. I read this at one point. It said, life is hard for two reasons. You're either leaving your comfort zone or you're staying in it. And I've talked before about comfort zones and how we need to get out of our comfort zones because they just keep us stuck. And so we have to understand that, yeah, it's hard to leave your comfort zone, but think about it, it's also hard to stay in it. Because when you sit there every day and you're like, man, I wanted my life to be different, that's hard. That's hard to reconcile with yourself that hey, I chose this. I'm being accountable. I chose this. This is nobody else's fault. So you just want to make sure that you're being intentional with everything that you do. Again, in every single moment, be intentional. When you're communicating with people, be intentional with that. Don't fly off the cuff and say things without thinking about that first. Is this in line with who I am as a person, with who I want to be as a person? If I want to be a more kind person, I can't just fly off and give somebody an attitude. This weekend, on Sunday, it was so cold. My daughter and I had went to eat at a restaurant, a fast food place, before we went to the grocery store because, it's a bad idea to go to the grocery store hungry. So we had gone to eat at a fast food restaurant, and I cannot tell you how rude the chick was at the counter. And like old Erin wanted to come out and snap at her and say something to her. And I kept it together, and I was like, that's not who I want to be, right? That's like high school Erin. I'm 45-year-old Erin now. So I'm choosing to be a different person. And I just had to think about it a different way. Sometimes we just need to reframe the way we think about it. I don't know what's going on in that young lady's life. There could be big things going on. She could just be miserable because it's cold outside. I have no clue. But you want to make sure that 10 years from now, that you can look back and you can see that you chose your life, not that you settled for it, right? That's a big thing because so many people settle for their lives. It's just the easy thing to do. It's staying in that comfort zone. And it's hard to choose, every day to make these big steps or little steps even that are going to get you towards your goals. But it's important because then you get to say that you chose your life. Right. And you get to hopefully live the life that you are. Hi, Guy. Live the life that you dream of. So if you'll just humor me one last time and close your eyes again. And this time I want you to think of that life that you choose. Think of the house that you live in. Is it multi-level? Is it single level? Is it in the mountains? Is it on the beach? Is it in the city? Is it a penthouse? Think of that house that you choose to live in. And what's the car you choose to drive? I'm narrowing mine down. Mine seem to be between with the BMW. It's a lot of BMWs in there. Also the Mercedes. And so I'm like, ooh, I need to go test drive some soon. Of course, I don't know how all that goes right now. What's the car that you choose to drive? What's the career? What's the job? What's the profession that you choose to do every day in this life? You choose it. You love it. You feel inspired by it. You know that it's your purpose. I was teaching a workshop today at work, and it was actually about branding and networking, which is kind of funny because a lot of it is similar, looking at your goals, your vision, your mission, your values, those kinds of things. And so with that, I was telling them that it hit me, I don't know, 9-10 years ago, that I just know that part of my purpose is public speaking. And so notice what I'm doing. This is my evening. This is my Wednesday evening, right? I could go be in watching TV, but I'm not. I'm doing something, to share my voice with the world. And so that's something that I love to do. It's aligned with my values. What's your family look like? What's the family that you choose? And I don't mean like write out your current spouse and your kids or anything like that. But what's your family life look like? Do you guys spend more time together, maybe cooking or eating dinner? Do you guys get to go on more trips together? Do you spend more time doing family game nights? I love family game nights. Where do you take vacations to? Right? So that dream life, we want to be intentional. When we know that there are dreams inside of us and we don't act on those dreams, it slowly kills us every day. That's where you start to wonder, you're like, why am I even here? What am I even doing? And that's not the way you're supposed to spend life. We are supposed to live life abundantly, right? Not that there won't be challenges, because there will be. All right, open your eyes. I hope this little chat was helpful to you in some way, shape, or form today. Hi, James. Hi, Dee. Hi, Dee. I just saw Dee yesterday in the hallway. I haven't seen. It's like when we see people in our office now, because it's been so long, everybody's in the office at different times. It's like, hey! So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. If you have any comments or anything, feel free to type them in. And thank you guys so much for jumping on with me today. I hope you have a blessed rest of your week. And, on this Wednesday, dream big and live big. Bye, guys.